Hello, 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 everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out in the podcast chair. Another quick mini-sode for you. First, want to remind you we are sponsored by Anow Software. Anow is spelled A-N-O-W, as in Appraisers Now software. Anow.com/coach is where you want to go. Anow.com/coach. Speaking of coach, I just got off a coaching call yesterday with a great partnership. Somewhere here in the United States. Don't want to reveal their identity, but you know who you are. Talked to both of them and had an opportunity to chat with them about a concept that I've been developing over the last couple of months that I wanted to share with you. If you go back to this podcast, episode number 188, I talk about some terminology that I use when I'm coaching, when I'm mentoring, when I'm at my all-star team, newsletter, or the Appraiser Academy online, or a lot. We talk about this a lot in the Dream Team meetings that we meet once a quarter. And we talk about the terminology of Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 employees. Tier 1, 2, and 3 employees. Just to recap, I would highly encourage that you go back and listen to that full episode because it goes into great detail as to what each of those mean. But for purposes of those who have not listened to that episode, I don't want to sway you from not going back and listen to it, but I think there's some great information there. But in order to get on the right page here, let me just recap and say this. Tier 1 individuals are basically basic employees. In other words, they're doing basic jobs. They're doing basic tasks. You can take somebody out of a temp service, and within 2 weeks, you can have them completing Tier 1 tasks in your appraisal office pretty well. And, those are things like answering the phones, being on top of emails, data entry, that kind of stuff is Tier 1 type work. Okay. Tier 2. Tier 2 is a little bit more advanced. Tier 2, you probably really need to be in an appraisal office several months to really know the terminology. We're starting to talk about things like CU and UAD and USPAP and, abbreviations and zoning and plats and GIS and sketching and all of this stuff that take a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more experience being around an appraisal office to complete. That's Tier 2. It's still pretty basic stuff. But it takes a little bit of time and some knowledge in order to complete it. I actually put the appraisal inspection, the inspection itself, into a Tier 3 category. Tier 2 category. Some people would argue with me and they would say that's Tier 3 because, it takes an appraiser to do that. I disagree. I don't know that it does. I think it takes a highly qualified individual. But the difference between a Tier 2 and a Tier 3 individual is the word analytical. In other words, to be Tier 3, you're starting to look at things with some analytical minds. In other words, it's not just a matter of knowing some things, not just a matter of having a pulse and a breath and being able to fog up a mirror. I don't want to degrade employees, but it doesn't take much to do Tier 1. It really doesn't. If you're alive and you have a brain, you can do Tier 1, right? And Tier 2 is going to take a little bit more knowledge. But Tier 3, difference between these things and Tier 3 is Tier 3 takes this up here, this thing we call a head, a brain, a mind. It takes really being able to look at things analytically, and that's the difference. I don't think that's required for an inspection myself. But those are the difference between Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Well, here we go. Now I'm using this new word, this new fandangled terminology. What is a Tier 4 individual? What is a Tier 4 individual? Can't wait to tell you about that. But first, I want to pause and remind you that we are sponsored by Anow Software. Anow Software is the online software that I use to keep track of everything that goes on in my business. Folks, it not only keeps track of the appraisals that I'm doing, but it also keeps track of my revenue, my unpaids. When I get ready to do billing, I don't go to QuickBooks. I don't go to Excel. I don't go to, some fandangled piece of paper that I've been writing things down on. No, I go directly to Anow, and within a couple punches of the button, I can see who has paid me and who has not. I love Anow Software. Folks, as a business owner, I need to be able to make decisions. I can't make those decisions unless I have knowledge. Anow gives me the knowledge that allows me to make the decisions that I need to make as an appraiser. Check it out by going to anow.com/coach. And when you do, you get 3 months free of the All-Star team. 3 months free of the All-Star team just by going /coach after you type in anow.com. And welcome, 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 folks. We're talking today about terminology that you sometimes hear the appraiser coach use. And I use this often in, in my All-Star team newsletter, online, in my Appraiser Academy, and a lot in the Dream Team. So when we're talking, let's say, for example, you are a member of my Dream Team, and we're sitting around the table, and it's your turn, meaning you have about an hour every meeting to basically talk to 7 other people, 7 other highly successful appraisers who are all sitting around the same table in person in a hotel room somewhere in the United States, and it's your turn. Okay, and let's say your name is Jason, and I turn to you and say, hey, Jason, talk to me. Well, Jason might say, you know what, I've got some tier 1 and tier 2 people, but I really need some tier 3 people. Well, guess what? Everybody in that room knows what we're talking about because we've all defined these tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So in other words, instead of Jason sitting there saying, okay, I've got this gal and she answers the phones and she does this and da-da-da-da-da, and then I got another person and she kind of sketches out the properties before I get there, and she helps me to figure out the zoning laws, and she helps me da-da-da-da. Instead of doing all of that, he just says, I've got a tier 1 person, I got a tier 2 person. Bam, done. Easy, easy peasy, right? You boil all of that talk down into just 2 terms, tier 1, tier 2. Everybody around that table knows what you're talking about. We also talk about tier 3. What is tier 3? Well, tier 3 is somebody who can help you with the appraisal process, the analytical side. Yes, folks. Yes, you can do that. It's USPAP allowed. Usually your state law will allow it as well. Now this is the difference between tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Remember that phrase in USPAP called Snickers? Remember that phrase in USPAP called significant assistance, right? Okay, that's the difference right there. That's the difference between tier 2 and tier 3. Tier 3 is significant assistance stuff. That's helping you with adjustments. That's helping you with comp polling. That's helping you with reconciliation. That stuff is tier 3 stuff. Okay. So yesterday, I'm on the phone, 2 partners, we on a video call. Those of you who are on the coach cam, you can see me, they could see me just like this. In fact, the exact same background was behind. No, that's not true. I had a different background yesterday, but nonetheless, here I am talking to these 2 individuals, and we're talking about their business. And we talked about the different stages that their business are in. And I said, you're in a stage 0. And I explained what that meant. I said, what you need to do is go from stage 0 to stage 1, which will probably take you about 6 months to a year, maybe 18 months. And I explained what stage 1 was. And then we talked about stage 2, and then we talked about stage 3, and that's really where they want to be, is stage 3, but it's going to take 3 to 5 years to get there. And so we went through this process. I was on the phone with them for about an hour. Had a great conversation. Great business owners who really have a head on their shoulders, and they are moving forward. They're very visionary in their outlook on what their appraisal office is going to look down the road. And so we lined that up, and I basically helped them to create a business plan that could help them to move to the next level. Okay, that's what they employed me to do, and that's what we did in about an hour. And I think they got a pretty good handle on where they want to move their business. But one of the terms that came up that I've actually been using for a couple months now, but I haven't really used it here on the podcast, and I haven't used it in very many other venues other than the Dream Team. So several Dream Team members across the country have heard me use this term, but let's talk about it today. The term is tier 4, and that's really where these partners want to be eventually. That was the stage 3 level that they wanted to get to. That's going to take them 3 to 5 years to get there because they've got some building to do, right? But I talked to them about tier 4, and basically, tier 4 is different than tier 1, 2, and 3 because tier 1, 2, and 3 are still the technician side of things. Okay, the technician side of things. In other words, even tier 3, as high end as it is still the technician. If you've read the great book by Michael Gerber called The E-Myth Revisited, you will know that tier 3 is still Pam and All About Pies. Pam is still, I think that's her name. It's been a while since I read it. But Pam is still the technician. She's still baking the pies, but she wanted to be tier 4. What is tier 4? Just get to it, Dustin, would you? Quit teasing us. Tier 4 is the business owner. Tier 4 is the business owner. Tier 4 is the visionary. Tier 4 is the CEO. That's when you get to the point that you're not really hands in the mud, if you will, with the appraisal side of things. Tier 4 is more running the business. It's the top end. It's the guy or the gal in the office, running the business, quality control, checking everything, making sure that people are in their right places doing the right things, making sure that the vision of it needs to happen with that appraisal office is actually happening. That's tier 4. And folks, I'm starting to slip into that the last couple of months. I shouldn't say slip into, because that implies that it's an accident, that I'm falling into it. No, I'm purposefully outlining my processes so that I can be more tier 4. I think I'll always be some tier 3 just because I love it. I love going out and visiting people with their homes. I just came back from an appraisal inspection, an hour ago. And the guy was just, he's just fun to talk to. I was there for 45 minutes and it didn't bother me one bit because he was just a fun guy to talk to, right? Being an appraiser is a great thing. Being a business owner for me is even greater. And that's what tier 4 is all about. Folks, where are you headed with your business? If you want to move your business to the next level, if you want to move your business to stage 3, and you want to be more of a business owner and not just the technician within the business, talk to me about the Dream Team. I have openings across the country right now. You can go to theappraisercoach.com, click on memberships, click on the Dream Team, read all about it, watch some testimonials, and then reach out to me. It's a first come, first served basis. I can only have so many people in the mastermind. That's not just a throwaway line. We meet for one day and everybody gets an hour. So you do the math. Only certain seats can be filled. If you're interested, reach out. Now's a good time to reach out to me and see if there's an opening in your area. Washington, D.C., Chicago, Salt Lake City, Dallas, and 2 masterminds in Las Vegas. Hope to hear from you soon, folks, and hope to be sitting in a room with you soon in the mastermind. Thanks for catching me today, and we'll catch you next time.